If your clients are getting cold sores, they hate it in a way that can only produce never before heard cuss words. So if you can not only help them understand those cold sores, but also get rid of them for good, those clients are going to like you a whole lot. Let's jump in.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
Now, most clients are going to already understand that cold sores come from the herpes simplex virus. And they're going to be like, yeah, I was making out with some sleazy guy. But it could also come from just skin-to-skin contact. And it's believed that once the virus is in the body, that it's just going to stay there indefinitely. And what's going to happen is the status of the immune system is what dictates whether the person has a breakout or not. Now, before we really get into this, one thing that can be important to understand is that stress can occupy the immune system and allow that breakout to happen. So if somebody is really stressed out or their boss is just a jerk, you want to help them find ways to simmer down a little bit and reduce that stress level. That will also help them understand why they often get these breakouts when they're really stressed out. But that doesn't mean that a client needs to remove all of the stress from their life. If you can help them understand some of these other factors that we're going to talk about in this video, that may give them a little bit more freedom to include a little bit more stress when needed without having a breakout. So to optimize cold sores and to understand what's really going on, we really need to understand the immune system. And you're going to be able to help clients understand this in a way that it probably has not been explained to them at all. Now, there's a lot of aspects to the immune system, but to really understand cold sores, we need to understand the aspect of sending a signal to the immune system. So what happens is, and when the body has some type of invader, it sends the signal to the immune system that, hey, there's a problem here that you need to keep in check. That doesn't mean that the immune system may totally remove the problem. It just wants to try and keep that in check. Now, what allows this signal to travel and to go to the immune system is calcium at the tissue level. Now, most clients actually have plenty of calcium. They don't really need to supplement with as much calcium as they think that they do. The problem is that a lot of times the calcium is in the wrong place. And when too much calcium leaves the tissue, that signal to the immune system doesn't happen anymore. And some type of dormant virus, like a herpes simplex virus, can flower and cause havoc. And now they have a cold sore, and the only way that it can be covered up is by wearing a baby Yoda mask. So what we want to teach clients to do is to be able to look at their urine pH. And you can get urine pH testing strips at most health food stores, and you can get them on Amazon. We'll put links in the description below this video so you can see what we're talking about, but you'll be able to send this link to clients or just tell clients to pick them up at a local health food store and look at their urine pH. And what's important is to understand that they want to look at their urine pH at least 2 hours after a meal and not first thing in the morning. They don't want to look at that first urine of the day because that's going to show you other things going on that we don't really want to look at for this purpose. So looking at urine pH at least 2 hours after a meal, and if that number is around 6.1 or higher, that's a strong indication that the body may be pulling too much calcium out of the tissues. And when that happens, there's too much free calcium just kind of floating around, so the body wants to get rid of that. And one way that it does that is it pees it out. And since calcium is more alkaline, it can raise the urine pH and show it at a higher alkaline pH. So this is a good indication that the body may be pulling too much calcium out of the tissues and creating this problem where this dormant virus can flower and create a lot of trouble. So we want to be able to monitor what's going on with this. Now, they're not always going to show a higher urine pH. It's possible to see a lower urine pH and still have calcium pulling out of the tissues. But if you see a higher urine pH, it's kind of a slam dunk that, yeah, too much calcium is being pulled out, and so we want to stop this from happening or take steps to push the calcium back where it needs to be. So let's talk about some of the things that can pull too much calcium out of the tissues. And this is going to be a big one. You're probably going to be a little upset with me because you may not have heard this, but vitamin D can be very problematic in this regard. Now, don't get me wrong, vitamin D is still a hero, is still a good guy. We need vitamin D to pull calcium out of the intestinal tract into the bloodstream so that the calcium can go to the right place and be used. It's really needed for our immune system to function correctly, because if there's not enough vitamin D, you can't pull the calcium into the system and then get it into the tissues so that the immune system can be signaled that there's a problem. Here's the issue. Too much vitamin D not only pulls calcium out of the intestinal tract into the bloodstream, it pulls calcium out of all the tissues and even the bones and pulls that into the bloodstream as well. It turns it into this kind of crazy shop vac pulling calcium from everywhere. So not enough vitamin D doesn't allow the immune system to work, but too much vitamin D also doesn't allow the immune system to work. And it's very cool right now. All the cool kids are taking these crazy, insane amounts of vitamin D, and a lot of them, you'll see a very high urine pH because they're pulling all the calcium out of the tissues as well. It can be very problematic. So that's why sometimes when people take too much vitamin D, they'll start having cold sores. Now, other issues that can pull a lot of calcium out of the tissues are too many carbs or sugars, or especially liquid sugars like alcohol or sodas or fruit juices and stuff like that. Those liquid sugars can really pull a lot of calcium out of the tissues. And what happens is calcium wants to follow sugar, just like we all followed the ice cream truck when we were kids. Calcium follows sugar. So when somebody eats too many carbs, starches, or sugars, a lot of times it'll push too much of the calcium out of the tissue level, and then we have this immune system problem. Another issue can be too much sun exposure, just because they're getting too much vitamin D and it's creating that same problem. Other supplements that can be problematic are glutamine and arginine. They both have the ability to push too much calcium out of the tissues. So just look over with your clients what's going on. Look at the carbs that they're eating, look at their food journal, look at their sun exposure. Are they using some type of supplement that can pull too much calcium out of the tissues? And you can help them correct those. But we can also take steps to improve the situation. Maybe they can't reduce all their carbs. You know, most clients that are really like carb addicts or chocoholics and such, they're that way because they're having a problem digesting proteins or fats correctly. And if they can't digest those types of foods, they're going to gravitate towards more carbohydrates, because especially these processed carbohydrates are very easy to break down even when your digestion is not working optimally. So if you have clients that are having digestive symptoms at all, that's a strong sign that digestion is not working correctly and they need to take steps to improve those malfunctions. Now, we'll put a link in the description below this video so that you can download my book, Health Pro Results, for free. And this book walks you through how to help clients figure out if there are aspects of digestion that are not working correctly, and then the steps they can take to improve that. And if you're not working with clients and their digestion, that step alone is going to take your business to a whole other level. It's a really big deal. So that's something that you can do to help reduce their need for carbs. Now, other steps that you can take to improve the situation is give them some supplements that can help push the calcium back to the right place. One thing that can be very helpful is lysine, just the amino acid lysine. It's a really popular remedy for cold sores, but it's not because it's magic and it just magically removes cold sores. It works because it's pushing the calcium back where it needs to be so that the body can signal the immune system to handle this virus that's in the body. Now, another thing that we'll look at is like, how much lysine does a client need? Well, we hear from a lot of people who take like up to 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day, maybe once per meal, to help get a cold sore under control. Now, help clients understand you're not going to take this and the cold sore is going to be gone in 3 hours. You know, there's been damage to the skin. It takes time for that to heal, but it can greatly reduce the time it takes to get rid of that cold sore. They also have lysine ointments, and a lot of times people will put that on the actual sore, and that can speed up the process of getting the tissue, the calcium down to the tissue in the right place, right at the source of the problem. So lysine ointment can be very popular, and we'll put some links to those supplements and the ointment that you can find on Amazon just to get an idea of what we're talking about here. Other things that can be beneficial here are fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids can help push calcium back to the tissue level. but we like to see people use olive oil more than these supplements because of the ratio of the fats in the olive oil is a little bit better. Fatty acids and omega-3s are not this savior like most people think and most of the medical world is telling everybody. They are beneficial for some people, but a lot of people, at least half of the population, are dealing with imbalances that fatty acids can really magnify and make them very problematic. Insulin resistance is a big deal, and fatty acids can push a person more insulin resistant. So if you want to understand that a little bit better, I talk a lot about that in my book, but I'll put some links below for more information about omega-3 fatty acids too. But just know in a pinch here, if somebody's using lysine and they're not getting the enough calcium back down to the tissues, they can start adding some fatty acids, and that can be beneficial as well. Another step that can be really beneficial to help someone reduce the carbs that they're consuming is to help them consume some medium carb foods. They won't be able to reduce all the carbs if they're not processing proteins and fats correctly, because then you just took away their only fuel source and they're going to be miserable and they're going to have emotional issues and all this stuff. So we like to see people start to introduce medium carb foods, and these are foods that will include carbs, but maybe not so much that you get this huge spike and crash. We're talking about things like butternut squash and yams and sweet potatoes and maybe some Brussels sprouts. Real food sources of carbohydrates that'll give them what they need without creating such a huge spike and crash. And you'll see that they'll be able to do a lot better and maybe not pull so much calcium out of the tissues while you're taking these steps to improve digestion with them. So you can see that if a client understands these tools, they can really remove cold sores for good. A lot of people that have cold sores will feel like, I'm kind of getting a little tingling. I feel like one's going to come on. They know when they're coming. And when they do that, they can check their urine pH, see, is it too high? Do I need to take steps to bring that low? Or they might just be able to increase their lysine intake or decrease their carbs. They can kind of look back, this weekend I was out at the beach, I got a lot of sun, I had a bunch of beer, I had 5 plates of nachos. They'll be able to figure out, I can see why I would have a cold sore. So if you can help clients learn this, they'll know the right steps to take. I hear from clients all the time, they're like, I haven't had a cold sore in years, because they know the steps to take when they're in a situation that could put them in a place that they're more likely to have a cold sore breakout. So if this is helpful, be sure to click on the like and subscribe button, because that helps YouTube share this video with more people and help more people find their answers. Now, to dig deeper into these concepts, you can just download my book for free in the description below, and that'll help you dig deeper in understanding these concepts. For now, be sure to watch our playlist on optimizing digestion to understand more ways that you can help your clients optimize their digestion if that's part of the problem. I can't wait to hear about your results.